Hi.
Hello.
We're here again. Yay. Okay, what are we talking about today?
I think we're just going to talk about like our journey with healing and growth and evolving and
I love it. Yeah.
Being in the trenches.
Dude.
Suffering.
Because we, when we first met, we were very different people.
Yes.
Yeah. I popped open a picture. I was like, oh my gosh, memory popped up and it was you and me. And it was like, who were those babies?
Oh.
Who were those babies 10 years ago? They didn't know nothing.
Those poor.
They were doing their best, man.
Yeah.
They were doing their best. But it's so interesting because I feel like we have evolved together, like in growth in these different aspects. And like, oh, dude, I'm just so proud of like.
I'm so proud of us.
Like,
good for us.
Good for us, man. But I think it's cool to like talk about that journey, like for each of us, because I think that there's a lot of like pieces that go into that and really contribute to how we are today and how we feel good. You know what I mean?
And I do think that like with social media or just like seeing the people around you, sometimes you can convince yourself that like other people just have it together or they just, like you don't see the journey. People don't always show the darkest parts of themselves or their struggle. And so I just think it's good to be transparent and talk about it so other people can be like, oh shit, me too.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I can pinpoint certain times in my life where I'm like, oh, I shifted here. This happened here. I shifted here, right? Like there's some books that helped me along the way. There's like therapy and breathwork really were my major tools to help me process things. But also the Enneagram was super helpful for me. And I know that was part of your journey too. And I think just like kind of realizing and taking ownership in your own life, like that was so hugely beneficial. But I'd love to talk about like where we were and kind of like both of our, like where we kind of started from and like how we've kind of gotten to where we've gotten, as where we are right now, Yeah. So do you want to go first? Do you want to talk a little bit about what that journey was for you?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yay.
I would say when we met back in the day, first of all, I was killing it, but like also killing myself.
Got it.
Like I was doing all the things.
Oh yeah.
But I was a shell of a human being. Like I was running on E. But everyone was like, you're doing so great. Like, I can't believe you're running a business and you're the best mom and the best wife and hosting all the parties and cooking dinner every night and doing all the things. But, oh my God, I was not. But that was the only thing I've ever known. I just didn't know where I was at until I was there. Do you know how they say, like, if you don't take care of yourself, like, or you don't rest or whatever, that your body will make you?
Yes. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think I physically, mentally, emotionally, it all just came to a head where I realized, like, there just was no option of moving forward in that way.
Yeah.
Like, I was Googling fibromyalgia. I thought I had some sort of, like, illness or ailment that I was like, this can't be right. I feel like I'm dying. And so for me, I had really consumed a lot of different self-help books and listened to some podcasts and things, but I had done lots of talk therapy, but I just felt like I was paying someone to hear my story. And sometimes they would cry and I would be like, do you need a tissue? Like, but I would literally...
Let me console you about my life. Okay.
But I would be talking as if I was just telling them like, and then I ate this for breakfast, and so I just was so disconnected from myself. I was in survival mode. I was huge in just like the fawning.
Yeah. Which, okay, can we talk about that aspect? Because there's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I didn't know what fawning was until I was doing my breathwork stuff. But like, can we kind of touch into that? Because I don't think at least I didn't know until like a few years ago.
I haven't really even looked it up in a while, but I just feel like you have some people are just more avoidant, and as soon as there's conflict, they need to get out of there. And then there's some people, when things come up, they just shut down and they can't verbalize, they can't, it's just, they're all like survival techniques.
The way I kind of view it is that it's almost people pleasing as a safety mechanism, because you feel like if you were to pull away or you were to fight, that it would cause more trauma or more havoc. And so it's like people pleasing to make sure you're safe. Like if I do these things and I placate to these people, then I actually am more safe than if I were to fight or shut down or escape, right? Like,
yeah, that makes way more sense. For me, I felt like I had a lot of tools, but it still just wasn't producing any kind of an outcome. And I was stuck in this loop of my identity was tied to the traumas I've been through and what my survival techniques and coping mechanisms were. And even when I would meet new people, I would just be like, well, I have to tell them my whole life story for them to know who I am. And that took a long time for me to like move past, you know?
The trauma dumping.
Right. Because that was my identity.
Right.
That was who I was. Right. And so, just this living in nothing but like victim mentality, resentment, and just kind of helplessness. And again, like my whole system was just like, fuck this. So what helped me to like start getting out of that, digging myself out of that hole, was you actually had introduced me to the Enneagram. We were at a Christmas party and you were like, I have to tell you about this. At that point in time, I did not know what you were talking about.
Well, sounds on brand. As I'm like spewing all this information,
so
you're like, what?
Passionate about it and excited. Was telling me all this stuff, but I was not clocking it. I was just kind of like, okay, but I did not know what you were talking about. So I started looking into it after that because it just gave me a little bit of a spark, and I was so desperate for anything that would help me that I looked into it. And then I realized, oh, this isn't just like a personality test, which a lot of people view it as.
Right.
But it is based off of your perceived childhood wounds. And so it tells you, based off of what you experienced, like how you then move through the world, view yourself, what your biggest fears are, your desires, like just everything. And that immediately just like opened up my whole world, because that helped me to figure out, like, separate the trauma and who I had to be from who the hell am I now? Like, and it helped me. It was like a tool for empathy for myself, and that allowed me to then view the world and other people in a way that was not, you know, just like judging and resentful. And it just helped me to get my power back and to see the light. And the more I understood myself, the more I had the actual opportunity to start healing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. And just like all of those pieces like clicking into place, like it's so crazy how you can have like I've talked about it before, but like I can listen to one podcast and it changed my whole life. I can listen to I can read one book and be like, holy crap, that opened up something inside me. And I think that with the Enneagram, that piece of it for me too was just like, oh my gosh, it was like someone read a diary I'd never written about every deepest feeling that I had ever felt. And they were like, hey, I know this, and like, you're worthy of love. That was the thing. And I was like, holy shit. I remember sending you the songs from Sleeping at Last. Sleeping at Last is a band, a dude, amazing. And he wrote a song for each of the 9 types.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I still listen to that song.
From their point of view of how they experience things.
So each one was like the one for the 2, obviously, each one, if you are a 6 and you listen to the 6, I think you would have the same reaction, just because it's like this moment of like, you're listening to it and you're like, this is exactly how I feel. What I loved about it too was that it was like, no, this is like a love song from you to you of like, this is how you should be, the way you're treating everybody else and doing everything for everybody else and putting them above you. Like that needs to be turned back on you.
Well, yeah. And one thing that blew my mind, because again, coming from like the victim mentality, and don't get me wrong, I mean, at that point in time, I deserved it. I was like,
that's the thing about like, it can be justified.
So real.
Yes, it's like a justified thing.
Right.
And it is true. Like you have had things happen. I have had things happen where I have felt, and I'm like, I know I've had this happen to me, and this sucks, and I don't deserve this.
Right.
But it's like that story.
And then it helped me to draw attention to like, what those songs that you're talking about, the information that the Enneagram provided me with, it helped me to then uncover like, what is your part in your own suffering? Like, what role do you play that perpetuates your own suffering? And that was like, as a unhealthy two, one of the biggest things, because we're both twos, so there's 1 through 9, we're both twos. As an unhealthy two, the martyr, and you're not even realizing you're doing it. So once you realize that that's what you're doing, even if it feels justified, it just helped me to instantly feel empowered. Because if something's just happening to you and there's nothing you can do about it and you don't see an end in sight, but then when you realize what your part in that suffering is, then that gives you something that you can then have control to change.
Absolutely.
And it was like clouds parted, the sun came through.
It is so empowering to take that back, like take ownership of those things. Now, does it suck? Yeah. It can suck to feel like, oh my gosh.
It's uncomfortable.
Oh, it makes me want to vom. Like seriously, because one of my absolute favorite books. So this is one of the books that like those little pinpoint marks where I'm like, oh, this shifted things for me, was a book called The Power of Ted. And it's written in a parable form. So it's kind of weird, but also like easy to read. It's a very short read, but it's all about victim mentality. And it doesn't mean, what I want to make clear is like, you and I have both been the victim of things.
Yes.
That is very different than victim mentality.
Yeah.
You can still have had things happen to you and not be in victim mentality.
Right. And we're not saying it's your fault.
No, absolutely not. But what the victim mentality does is it keeps you in that story. Like, I am not in power. These things are all this person's fault or this thing happening. And so in this book, it talks about 2 different triangles. So it has like basically they call it the dreaded drama triangle, and then the empowerment, like the empowerment dynamic. So TED, the empowerment dynamic.
Okay.
So the first one is the victim triangle, right? And what I didn't realize is when I read it, I had kind of pulled myself out of the stories I was telling myself a lot. Like I was like, okay, I'm aware of this thing happening. I'm aware that I'm saying the same thing over and over again and saying like, oh, this person did this to me, or like I'm justified in feeling this way because this person, right? And I kind of pulled myself and been like, ooh, I don't love that I'm telling, like I can hear myself saying this story. But what I didn't realize is in order for victim mentality to maintain and be there, you not only just have to be the victim, but there's the persecutor and the rescuer. That's part of this triangle.
Okay.
And what happens is you shift in the triangle all the time. So if you're playing the rescuer role where someone comes to you and they're like, oh, this thing happened. And you're like, oh my God, girl, like that is horrible. I hate that person for you, right? Like, or like, I want to do this thing for you. Or you're giving advice. Like if you've ever given advice and then was mad at a person for not taking it, you are a rescuer. You are part of that victim mentality, because what happens is as a rescuer, you're like, I will fix this for you. Yeah. I have advice for you.
Yep.
And then when the person doesn't take it, guess what? You become the victim and they become the persecutor, right? So you're just like in this triangle going back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Like playing all these roles. But it's only when you get out of that. And so the empowerment dynamic is the other triangle. So in the empowerment dynamic, instead of the victim, you are the creator. Okay? Which all of these words just like, it's so much more empowering. Even just saying that, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the creator, right? Instead of the persecutor, you have the challenger. And the challenger can be life circumstances. The challenger can be cancer. The challenger can be a boss that fucking sucks. You know what I mean? Instead of it being the persecutor, you're like, this person's here to teach me this thing, right? And then instead of the rescuer, you have the coach. And the rescuer wants to fix things for you. The coach asks you questions to have you figure out.
I love this.
Isn't that so good?
Yeah.
So it just
the shift, yes.
The shift of it all, because then what you're doing is you're creating this space where you're like, okay, what is this trying to teach me?
Yeah.
Like being in this circumstance, like this fucking sucks. Like, okay, what is this teaching me? What do I have to learn from this? Instead of it being like, woe is me, like this thing, and then becoming like resentful of these circumstances.
Yeah, that type of shift needs to happen, because if you do stay in the other one for too long, it will manifest into physical sickness, illness, like ailments. It will.
Your immune system and your nervous system are intrinsically tied. So if your nervous system is jacked because you're in fight or flight because of victim mentality, your immune system is very closely related to what's going on with your nervous system. So like when you're, and I don't say this like, oh, you're chronically ill, so your nervous system is jacked, but it is like you can have circumstances where your body is like, you're not actually listening.
Well, and there have been lots of studies that have been done that shows is it correlation, I guess, of people who have experienced like CPTSD and then actually having
like autoimmune.
Autoimmune disease.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a reason why so many women have thyroid issues, like both of us.
Yeah.
Like Hashimoto's and, you know, like there's so many ties to those things and having had those things. And it doesn't mean that that's not, like, I don't want it to be like, oh, this thing happened to you. And
we're not blaming.
No. But once you understand that, like you have the power, you are the creator of your life, right? Yeah. And it doesn't mean there aren't circumstances that suck that happen to you, right? But it's taking that and being like, all right, like I have this, I am not going to be winding myself in that same story of like, I can't do anything because this is happening, right? Yeah. You're becoming the advocate for yourself. You're standing up and in your own power, as opposed to, it's almost like I get this image of like being on the ocean, being tossed around in waves, but you don't realize you have sails that can propel you forward, right? Yeah. And you're just on this boat and you're holding on for dear life and you're like, oh my gosh, this sucks so bad. Like all these waves are coming. And you're like, you have fucking sails. Like, put up the sails and get the fuck out of there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's still going to be choppy and crazy.
Exactly. But you also have the ability to take charge and have the power over that. So anyway, that was one of my absolute favorite books. Like hands down, I feel like every single person should read that book, because I think that we also would view people very differently, because when we are in victim mentality, we also don't view people as being able to be resourceful on their own. Like we see other people as victims when we are in that.
Yes.
And so we are disempowering others when we view them as victims.
Right.
Whereas when you're in the empowerment dynamic, you also see other people as creators as well, instead of victims. And so you're like, I'm not going to take that on for you. I love you. I know you're capable.
Right. And so interesting, you and I ended up starting Evolve.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I don't think we ever like said it that way, but what you just described, it was like once we kind of clawed ourselves out of that, we then were like, oh, we need to help other women help themselves too.
Yes.
Like we need to be that support system, but in an empowering way.
Yes.
Like
we're
we don't
the
have
coach.
the answer.
Yeah.
It's like
No.
we can't fix you.
No.
But how many
Nor do
women,
we want to. Nor do we think that you need to be fixed. But we want to
No.
bring you to a space where we know that you can do this
Yes.
and give you the space
And
for that.
how many women spent, anywhere from 2 to 5 hours with us, and then afterwards, like they came in not sure, just kind of feeling like I'll try anything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
And then before they left, they were like, this felt like I got more out of this than like 5 years in therapy.
For sure.
And it was because certain types of therapies are, beneficial for different reasons. But for me personally, and I know you as well, like talk therapy just kind of kept me in those stories. But it wasn't until doing breath work
Somatic therapy and
like brain spotting.
Yes.
It was like stuff that actually just threw those stories out the window and just connected me to my body.
Yes.
That was like
huge.
And anyone who did breath work at our events who hadn't done it before, they were like, oh my God.
Holy crap. Yeah.
That it was just the most amazing, transformative, life-changing thing.
And that's the thing is I think that we can intellectualize our feelings. I spent years thinking about, like, I felt like I was a very emotional person. I'd be like, I cry all the time. Like, I'm a very emotional person. And I would tell anybody around me, like, oh, I cry all the time. What I didn't realize what was happening is that there is a difference between thinking about your feelings and actually allowing your body to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
I did not know there was a difference between the two. At the time, I was like, no, that's the same. I think about these things, right? And I'm sad. So how is that not like actually allowing myself to feel? But it was all here.
Yes.
It wasn't getting down into my body and allowing. And that's what breathwork, EMDR, brain spotting, it brings you into your body. And I had lived my life so disassociated for so much of my life.
I wasn't even breathing.
No.
Like,
it was like shallow, short breaths.
Holding my breath. I still catch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
I do it less now, but I used to be like throughout the day, I'd be like,
I haven't been breathing.
I wonder what my nervous system is like. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are you breathing because you're anxious, or you're anxious? Like, are you breathing anxiously? Because, yeah, seriously. But yeah, I had spent so much of my life disconnected from myself and not like literally feeling like I was watching myself from the outside.
Yeah.
And then EMDR and breathwork happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, it feels so good. It's uncomfortable. It's different because I had not felt it.
Yeah.
But to me, it felt so good to actually feel into my body.
Yeah. Majority of people who were a little uneasy or unsure about it, they all would say, I just don't know what's going to come up, or they knew what they were dealing with and they just didn't know if they were ready or capable or if they wanted to be around other people.
Totally.
Like, that's the thing, is we all want to go hide away by ourselves and lick our wounds, but connection is such a huge part. I was so desperate for connection.
So bad.
But
Same.
like something that we always would tell everyone is that your body like is never going to bring up anything that you're not ready to process.
Yeah. Because your brain is wired for survival.
Yes.
And that's why you feel afraid, because sometimes you're worried that if I touch this thing, I'm never going to be able to untouch it, you know? And the reality is, like, our bodies, because we're wired for survival, our brains think we can handle like 10% of what we can actually, our bodies can handle, you know? And our bodies are like, we got you, you know? But it's like our brains are like, no, but what if we die? You know, like, what if this thing happens and we can't undo this, you know?
Facing things it's scary. And another thing that we would always do in our events was the soul gazing. And that was the one that everyone was the most afraid of. And it was just like strangers staring into each other's eyes for a specific amount of time.
2 minutes?
Like 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so crazy how everyone was so afraid of it. And then when they did it, they were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, they
It's
loved
so
it.
emotional.
They could have done it for longer.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
But I mean, even just your partner, like if you're in a relationship,
yes,
just stopping and just like staring into each other's eyes.
I'm telling you, because there is something so, like, again, as Enneagram 2s, we have this like thing about wanting to be seen, like actually being seen. And there's something so raw and vulnerable to like stare at someone without trying to explain who you are or anything about yourself.
Yeah,
just
there's
like
no hiding. And I think it's the same with breath work or soul gazing. Like, yes, at first your mind won't shut up. You're just like, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you realize there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like start sinking into it. So you go from like smiling and kind of like looking at each other like, this is awkward. And then all of a sudden you just start bawling.
Oh yeah. Just to be seen and like to witness, to be seen and to be witnessed.
Yeah.
It's such a wild thing, but it just like all these little pieces are just like these little gifts of understanding of yourself. Again, like we do, like there are some parts where like I needed to heal on my own. I needed to go inward and be like, what's going on?
I needed to pull over on the side of the road and just hyperventilate, cry, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's some things that are done in the quietude of your own space, right? But I do not think that we can heal fully without being in connection with other people, because there's just something so different about being witnessed and being seen in those spaces, in that vulnerability, in that raw space.
Yeah.
But it also is like you see each other and you see parts of yourself in each other when you do that, when you're able to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm not alone in this.
These people were mostly, pretty much everyone was strangers.
Yeah.
But to feel so safe, like, because the story that you can kind of tell yourself is like, nobody else, you know, feels what I feel, or I can't trust anyone else. I have to do everything on my own. Nobody's going to show up for me. You know, if I show these parts, I'm not going to be loved. I have to perform all these things.
All of those stories. Immediately, I'm like, yep. I've felt all of those things.
Yeah. And so I just feel like when you're surrounded by people who are sharing very honest, vulnerable, you know, things, you realize, wow, I am, you know, supported, I'm safe, I'm accepted. And all of a sudden, again, you start breaking free of those chains.
Dude. Well, and I think like bravery begets bravery too. Like when you hear someone sharing vulnerably, and even just like us, right? Like when you're able to share vulnerably, then I feel safe to share vulnerably. And I know that I'm held in that. And being in a space with women who you've never met before, right? And having those experiences where you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Because you can, again, we're on our phones, we see all these highlight reels of people's lives and we have no idea the struggle.
Yeah.
Unless someone speaks about it or talk, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, you know?
Yeah. And a really common thing that I see and hear is a way of kind of pushing down your own struggle is when they say like, oh, well, other people experience worse. You know what I mean? They downplay their own suffering because, you know, who am I to feel some big type of feelings about this when other people have experienced, you know, larger tragedies.
Absolutely.
But it's not a competition.
No. And your feelings are valid in the things you're feeling. It's so interesting too, because there's this like, you know, we're talking about like, okay, you're like, oh, I'm accepting this, I'm validating these things. But it's also when you accept those things, it doesn't mean then you go into victim mentality where you're like, and I'm justified to do these other things. You know what I mean? When you actually accept those pieces of yourself, when you're actually able to be like, oh shit, this is what I do, or this is what has happened. Yeah. You're allowing yourself the fullness of, you know, expression.
You can then
kind
of let it go. And I think that's scary because like we've talked about it in previous episodes, like when you kind of identify with the tragedies you've experienced or losses that you've had, letting it go, although it might help you to grow and feel some sort of peace, like that can be scary.
Yeah. Especially if that peace feels like, I kind of like to think about it like a tent pole, you know, like if you have like an inner working of like a tent, you know what I mean? And you have all of these poles holding it up. And if there's an identity that's attached, you're worried that if you take this tent pole out, is the whole tent going to collapse? You know what I mean? And I think it's like,
because it worked for so long.
Because it did.
Until it didn't.
Right. And I think about that like with my eating disorder too. It actually was like a part, like it was part of my survival. It was part of something that helped me get through a time that was really hard.
You did the best you could with what you had at the time.
Right.
But once you start learning new, you know, more healthy ways, at that point, that's when you have to decide.
Right.
Like,
am I going to stay in this? Yeah. Am I going to keep this as my identity? Or am I going to replace it with a different identity that actually feels like that empowering thing, you know? One of my other favorite books that I swear literally shifted the way I view other people was The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. It's a very weird title, but it's all about shadow work.
I love shadow work. Oh my
gosh. This was like, okay, this was a book where I was like reading it and I'd be like, I think I understand what they're talking about. It took me a while to get the concept. And it's a Carl Jungian concept where you were born with all of these, you have all of these aspects of yourself. And as you were growing, your parent, your caregiver, your grandma, your grandpa, your teacher, your, you know, pastor, whatever, has told you aspects of yourself were undesirable, right? Like you're too loud, you're too this, you know, like you need to calm down, you need to be quiet, you're too emotional, you know, like there's all these different aspects that like, don't be this way because it's unacceptable. And you start learning that there's like pieces of yourself you need to hide, right? And Carl Jung has like two examples, but I like the backpack analogy. So he's like, in your childhood, all of these aspects that these people told you were undesirable, you put them in the backpack. And as an adult, you're walking around with this huge backpack of all these aspects that you will not show people, even though they're a part of you. And your job as an adult is to unpack the backpack. Mm-hmm. And it's all of these pieces. But what's so interesting, and this was the first time I had understood like what someone being a mirror, like everybody's a mirror. And I was like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and you kind of want to be defensive.
You're like, fuck you.
Yeah. Like,
fuck you, Carl.
Actually.
Like, no. In this book, she talks about, she was like a Bay Area resident. So it was like cool. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, she's on BART. Like, I know what that is. Right. And cause I grew up in the Bay, and she was at this conference and this man came up to her and he's like, yeah, I really love your book. But like, there's a guy in here who's like, he's just like a wimp, man. He's just like this big wimp. And it really bothers me. He really bothers me. And she's like, okay, so when is a time in your life that you were a wimp? And he was like, what? Like affronted, right? Yeah. And he was like, oh, I gotta think about it, you know? So he goes away, comes back like a few hours later and he's like, you know, okay, the first time I remember like having that word said to me was when I was a little kid and I went to the fair and there was this big horse and I was so excited to ride this horse. And when I got there, this horse was huge and I like didn't realize how big the horse was. And so my dad had taken me there specifically to ride this horse. And when I was like, no, I can't do this.
Horses are scary.
Dude, huge. They're so big. But he's like, my dad called me a wimp. He was like, oh, you're such a wimp. And so she was like, okay, when has being a wimp helped you? And he was like, I mean, and he had to think about it for a minute. And he was like, actually, like when I was in college, I had some friends that were really wanting to party. And he's like, I wimped out and I told them that I had like a date, and I didn't have a date, but I was just like, I knew that they were a little reckless.
Yeah.
And he's like, that night they got into an accident and one of my friends died because he was drinking and driving. And he's like, I think that was like this piece, right? Like that had saved me from that. And it's so wild because this is kind of like a weird concept to like wrap your head around. But basically, when you haven't accepted that piece of yourself, for him, that wimp was in the backpack, right? Like being a wimp was like not a thing that he should show or be. When he took it out, there's a gift in that. There's a gift of each of these aspects. There's a gift of being bitchy. There's a gift of being too emotional. There's a gift of being too loud, or, you know what I mean? Being too much or whatever, right? Like there's a gift in each of these things. And when we unpack it and we accept the gift of it, then we don't see it in other people.
And you release that shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you're like, accept that. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I met the guy that I thought was a wimp, and he's actually great. And the reason why he was great is because he wasn't mirroring back to him this aspect that he hasn't accepted. Once he accepted it, there's no more wimps that he sees because he's accepted this piece of him, right? And this goes for all of these different aspects of this shadow part, you know?
So you actually, do you remember you had me do this exercise?
Okay.
I took like a course that you were doing, and you gave us this homework for a week to just be aware of the things that trigger you, the things that annoy you.
Like things you're saying about other people.
And by the end of the week, I realized that every single fucking day, I was so annoyed, like, of people not being considerate. So, like, you can't hold a door open. You can't bring your cart back and put it away. Like, just so like inconsiderate, and it just pisses me off, and I would just see it all day every day, right? And it was so funny because then it was like this huge realization that I actually was never considering myself. I was like, do you know what I mean? It was just this crazy thing where I realized that I was just so triggered and angry at other people because I was not giving myself what I like needed or wanted or deserved. And it's even humbling now after all these years. Like when I start catching myself and I go, hold on. Why? And it'll show up in multiple. I'm like, how come all of a sudden everyone around me is starting to be XYZ way, and I'll be like, oh, damn it.
They're mirroring something that I haven't accepted about myself, right?
Know.
I think that the best way to see this is when you're driving. I think that like when you're like, you freaking idiot, like, and you're like,
Rachel, let's be transparent here, because guilty as charged. Every time when I'm sending you voice notes, I'm driving and I'll just like, I'll send you a voice note and I'll just be like, oh my God, I'm just so looking forward to us doing, like, get out of the way, use your blinker. Sorry, I'm driving. Like,
or me the other day when I was like, so I'm reading, okay, I'm at this part of the book and I'm like, the fucking pool guy's here. And oh my gosh. Dude, there's something about that pool guy that triggers me. I haven't figured it out yet, but like there's something about him that has an aspect of myself that I haven't accepted yet because he drives me freaking crazy. It's
almost become like, I don't know, enjoyable or fun to try to like figure out why.
Oh, totally.
Why am I feeling this way right now?
Exactly. Never waste a good trigger, man. Never waste a good trigger.
Yes, because they're just inviting you to meet yourself. You know, it's like, I mean, I don't know. No. Some days you just want to be like, no, actually today just fucking sucks. Totally. And that's okay.
Yeah, totally. But I also, that like piece of it also helped me realize that other people's perception of me has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with where everybody else is at, because just like everybody else is a mirror back to me, I am a mirror for somebody else back to them. And it doesn't have to do with me, actually. It has to do with where they're at, how they perceive me is their projection of themselves onto me. Yeah. Right? And so it's like, actually, if you're mad at me, if you're pissed off at these things, right? Like checking in with yourself, like, oh, did I do something? But if they're just like, if someone's angry on the road and they're freaking throwing hands and freaking out and you're just driving and you haven't done anything, right? I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Like that's they're processing something, or they're feeling like they are not considerate. You're right. Like they're thinking I'm not considerate, but it's because there's parts of them that aren't considerate. So it's just a really interesting place, because it gave me that like there's just freedom in realizing that like taking ownership of your own stuff, but then also realizing that everyone is also on their own journey. And I don't really get triggered as much. I wouldn't say never, but I rarely get triggered by other people's perception of me.
Yeah. It's human to get triggered.
Yes.
You're going to get triggered.
Yeah. It's not wrong. It's not like you're not healed because you're getting triggered.
After the trigger.
Absolutely.
Are you able to then take that, like, get curious and have it be an opportunity for growth and evolving? Or is it going to trigger you and now you're spiraling and everything is just sucks?
It's their fault, right? But that throws you back into victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're like, they're doing this to me. Yeah. They're on my tail. They're doing this thing.
Kids, like trying to teach kids.
Dude, seriously, I think that if we can instill these things, and again, this is why I always try to see my kids as capable and resourceful, because when I'm showing them that they are capable and resourceful and I believe that about them, then I'm empowering them to be the creator of their own life instead of falling into the victim mentality of like, oh, this is just,
that shift in how you view things. And this just popped into my mind and we've talked about it before, but like even shifting the way that you perceive, like, so I hear people all the time talk about doom scrolling and talk about like, oh, I have to get off of Instagram because it makes me so depressed and I just see all these, fake people and this and that. And I believe you. That is a very real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And do that. You know what I mean? Get off of it. Take your...
do what you need to do.
Media
Listen to your body. Yes.
But...
However...
And...
Yes.
For me, it was such a huge tool for my healing. You have the opportunity to have so much knowledge and information and connection. For me, my whole feed was just nothing. All day, every day, I was just being made more aware and reminded of where I was going, what these terms mean, other people talking about their experience, and me realizing I'm not alone. I felt like I was getting my PhD and like...
Yes. It was a tool. It's used as a tool. It can be a tool, right?
Yeah, TikTok, Instagram. I was learning so much. I had folders I was saving. It was crazy. But... it's just like if you are feeling like what you're seeing, while you're scrolling is depleting you, is making you feel worse about yourself. Yeah. Unfollow those people.
KonMari that shit. You know what I mean?
Who you want aspire to be more like, or what makes you feel good, what makes you feel like more of yourself, what makes you feel more seen. Yeah. And just start unfollowing everything else.
Dude,
because
you're the
an algorithm.
Yes.
What part of your own suffering are you?
Exactly. You are the creator. I always say this, like, you are the editor-in-chief of your own magazine that is Instagram and TikTok. Like, you don't have to look at all of these things. You don't have to see those things. But I also think that anything rooted in shame is like detrimental. Yeah. I think that if you are shaming yourself for being on, like, the shame is going to cause more havoc and more like problems within yourself, because when you're in shame, you're also like in conflict with your own self, right? Yeah. Because you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. It's not good for me to do this. And it's like, you could be aware of like, actually, I was on TikTok for 2 hours and like, oh God, I don't feel very good. Noticing, but then not shaming yourself for it. You can go into a shame spiral and then be like, what does this mean about me? That means I'm a terrible person. I have no self-control. Yeah. Once I got rid of the shame.
Subconscious. People aren't even saying that.
No,
directly.
They're just feeling it. And then operating out of that shame.
Right. Meet yourself with like understanding and grace and empathy, because for me, don't get me wrong, I'll blink and be like, hold on. How is it 11 o'clock at night and I was supposed to shower and do all kinds of things? Yeah. Because it does suck you in. Yeah. But in those moments, I am just like, oh, I needed to numb out. I needed to just mindlessly scroll.
Numbing is a tool. Disassociation is a tool.
You know what? I'll even be like, you know what? Good for you, because there's other ways to numb yourself that are not that are really bad for your health, and the fact that you didn't do those, good for you.
Good for you. Good for you for not drinking a whole bottle of wine, you know?
Yuck.
Again, no shame in that as well. But I think the core of it all, like if we were to distill all of this down, it's having compassion for yourself.
Right.
And like just really attending to your own needs, right? Putting your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
I think that is like so hugely transformative in how we now operate in our lives. And I think that's also what got us into books, right? Like romance novels and just reading for fun, because we stopped.
Well, it started as an escape mechanism.
Right, exactly.
I was like, take me anywhere else.
Get me out.
Here.
I want out.
Give me some dopamine.
Exactly. But I think also there is this, like in the self-help world, the need to fix, the need to like keep, like we're always going to have work to do. And we're always going to have things that come up in different circumstances. But it's that feeling like you need to fix yourself, or there's like the next layer that needs to be unraveled. Actually being in that can also
perfectionism, like just constantly
it's
trying
just a different form of, you know, it's like beating yourself on the back with whips, you know what I mean? Let me continue to
do better,
and
better.
It's in that shame, right? Like I don't like myself enough yet. What else can I fix to make myself better, you know?
Yeah. And then when you realize that there is no destination, and it's okay to take one step forward and two steps back.
It's not linear. It's just, it's a journey. And it's a journey that is supposed to be kind of windy, and that's okay.
And do you know, I tell everyone who will listen about this guy on Instagram. This guy is so good at helping you to understand why you have these stories, like how you can break free from digging those like neurological grooves over and over again.
Yes, you gotta scratch that record, man.
So Dr. Chris Lee.
Yes.
He's so good. I love him.
He's so
and
good.
He also just does it in a way that feels so just relatable and easy to understand. And
I love when people can break down a complicated concept into like simple terms that help you, like you get it, you know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, well, no wonder. Yeah, that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I love that.
And in a way that's like, hey, it's totally normal that you're doing that. That's what everyone
would respond with.
Yes. But like, here's how we can help give you the tools to move past it. Like instead of, you know, feeling shame or whatever. But definitely give him a follow, because he's helped a lot.
He's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Look at us.
Look at us. Here we are. I love it. I love the fact that, like, again, there's always stuff that can come up. There's always triggers, like you wouldn't be a human. We're not trying to bypass all of like the human experience, you know? And I think that it's so real to be like, okay, there's stuff that comes up on the regular, you know? But just knowing that like we have us now, and then like also in that space of like, okay, I have me, and also like I can also have you, and I can also like create like connection and just that. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do, but that's because we're both twos.
Okay.
So,
you know,
I totally get you.
Yeah. Okay. I know you do.
Yeah. So I want to know, I want the people who stuck around and are still listening, like, what Enneagram number are you?
Ooh, yeah.
I want to know, like, if you there's a free test. You don't have to pay.
No.
But you can.
I think is it Enneagram Institute? I think is the one that you
would
take.
Know that more than me.
That's a good one to take the test at, is the Enneagram Institute.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But
I like trying to guess what people are. I'm like, ooh, I feel like.
I know you're not supposed to, but I do.
Know.
I also love to guess what people are. So, but we'd love to know. It's such a tool for empathy, and we just love anything like that and just diving deep. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time. Till next week.
Yay. Bye.
Okay. Love you. Bye.